Let's stop the lies and look at the blood on the floor. You're not hurting because she left. You're hurting because you realized you spent years of your prime building a pedestal for a woman who was using it as a lookout tower to find your replacement. You're the victim of a sacrificial delusion. While you were out there bleeding for the mortgage, skipping sleep to ensure her comfort, and playing the loyal provider, she was already mentally auctioning off your life to the highest bidder. You think your broken heart is a sign of your deep capacity for love. No, it's a sign that you gave your masculine authority to a person who had no respect for the crown. You're witnessing a psychological liquidation. She didn't just cheat on you, she robbed the bank of your future and left you with the debt of her betrayal. You're the one sitting in a quiet house wondering why, while she's in a loud room laughing at the fact that you still care. You're funding the memory of a woman who has already deleted you from her hard drive. Today, we are killing the victim and resurrecting the king. We are stripping away the soft language of healing and replacing it with the brutal mechanics of a reclamation. I'm going to show you exactly why moving on is a physical act of survival, but healing is the absolute destruction of the version of you that was weak enough to be played. If you don't watch this until the final second, you're choosing to remain the man who tries to fix a shadow while the woman who cast it is already in someone else's bed. The most brutal truth you will ever face is that she didn't fall into another man's arms. She walked there because she stopped fearing the consequences of losing you. Men, this channel is more than content. It's a brotherhood that exists for those who refuse to be controlled, distracted, or broken. My ex told me men today are too weak, too distracted, and too controlled to ever unite. I didn't argue, I decided to prove her wrong. Every man who subscribes is proof that discipline, self-respect, and strength still exist. If you stand for truth, self-control, and knowing your value as a real man, if you're here to sharpen your mindset and live with standards, subscribe and stay. Like this video and make your presence known in the comments. Let's see who's serious and is ready to prove doubters wrong, because after this video, you'll be reborn as a new man who has discovered himself and is ready to take back his manhood. Make sure to subscribe and stay ahead, because we are just getting started. We have to look at the provider's blindness. You see, brothers, when you are a man of character, you project that character onto others. You think because you wouldn't cheat, she wouldn't either. You're the victim of moral projection. You gave her the keys to your kingdom and never checked the locks. Behavioral observations show that a woman's respect for a man is not based on how nice he is, but on how much she perceives his value to be. When you stop leading, when you become the predictable provider who never says no, you become a utility, and utilities are easily replaced. She didn't leave you, she upgraded her service provider. You're the victim of functional obsolescence. This is why moving on is often just a physical escape. You can move to a new city, get a new job, and find a new woman, but if you are still the man who seeks validation from the woman in your bed, you are still a victim. You're the victim of psychological tethering. Even from miles away, she still controls your mood. You check her social media to see if she's unhappy so you can feel better, but that means she still dictates your happiness. You are being remotely controlled. True healing is the moment you realize that her happiness or her misery has zero impact on your mission. I want to tell you about a man named Greg. Greg was a police officer, a man of law and order. He caught his wife, Jennifer, in a long-term affair with a friend. Greg did what most men do. He left. He moved out, got a lawyer, and stayed busy. On the surface, Greg had moved on. He was the perfect victim. He didn't cause a scene, he just worked his shifts and went home. But Greg was the loser in this story because he was mentally living in the past. He spent every shift thinking about the what-ifs. He was the victim of recursive trauma. He would drive past the places they used to go, punishing himself with memories. He thought he was processing, but he was actually worshiping the pain. He stayed single for 3 years, not because he was building himself, but because he was mourning a woman who didn't even spend 3 minutes mourning him. He failed because he thought his suffering was a tribute to the love they had. He didn't realize that your suffering is actually a tribute to the power she still has over you. He was the victim of a woman who was living rent-free in a mind that was supposed to be a fortress. You have to understand the validation vacuum. When she cheated, she took your seal of approval. You felt like you weren't enough. Many men try to fill this vacuum by moving on into the arms of multiple women. They think quantity will replace quality, but this is just a behavioral mask for insecurity. You are the victim of externalized worth. You're trying to use other women to prove to your ex that you're still the man, but you're still performing for her. Healing is when you look in the mirror and realize that the only person who needs to validate your manhood is the man looking back at you. The next psychological stage is the betrayal detox. Infidelity is like a poison in your system. It affects how you see every woman, every friend, and every opportunity. If you only move on, you are carrying that poison with you. You become the bitter man. You tell everyone that all women are the same. This isn't wisdom, it's the poison talking. You are the victim of generalization trauma. Healing is the process of sweating that poison out. It's realizing that her lack of character is not a reflection of the entire world, but a reflection of the low-value filter you were using when you chose her. You take your power back by destroying the pedestal. You have to stop seeing her as the woman who got away and start seeing her as the liability that was removed. You have to move from "how could she do this" to "I'm glad she showed me who she was before I gave her any more of my life." A man of value doesn't move on to find someone else. He heals so that he becomes a person that a high-value woman would actually be terrified to lose. You have to realize that your absence is the only thing that teaches people your worth. The most uncomfortable truth you'll ever have to swallow is that while you were crying over the history you had with her, she was already rewriting that history to make you the villain of her story. You're not just moving on from a person, you're moving on from a crime scene where you were the one who got robbed. You've been the victim of revisionist betrayal. She didn't just take her body to someone else, she took your memories and tainted them so she could sleep at night without feeling like a traitor. You're sitting there holding on to a version of her that never actually existed, while she's currently showing her true face to a man who doesn't even know your name. You're the victim of ghost funding. You're still giving her mental and emotional energy as if she's still the woman you married, but that woman is dead. She was a character played by an actress who just finished her contract and moved on to the next show. Today, we are finishing the work of the sovereign rebirth. We are looking at the final psychological shifts, the exorcism of the ego, the market value reclamation, and the silent victory. I'm going to show you why moving on is just a change in geography, but healing is a change in your very DNA that makes you immune to the games of low-value women forever. If you don't watch this until the final second, you're just a man running away from a ghost that is eventually going to catch up to you in the next bedroom. True healing doesn't happen when you find someone new to replace her. It happens when you realize that being alone is 1,000 times better than being with a woman who makes you feel alone. We have to talk about the exorcism of the ego. You see, brothers, the reason you can't stop thinking about her isn't love. It's your ego being insulted. Your ego is screaming because another man is winning with your woman. You are the victim of competitive trauma. You feel like you lost a game you didn't even know you were playing. But behavioral observations show that there is no winning with a woman who has no loyalty. The new guy hasn't won a prize, he's inherited a liability. He's just the next man in line to be lied to, cheated on, and drained. When you move on without healing, you are still trying to win a game that is rigged against you. Healing is the moment you walk away from the table and realize the game was trash to begin with. You are the victim of stakes delusion. You thought the stakes were your heart, but the stakes were just her next whim. Then comes the market value reclamation. When a woman cheats, she does it because she perceives her value is higher than yours in that moment. She thinks she's trading up.
If you only move on and stay the same man, you are confirming her suspicion. You are the victim of stagnant value. But the man who heals uses that pain to skyrocket his worth. He builds a body that looks like it was carved from stone. He builds a business that commands respect. He builds a mind that is sharper than a surgical blade. This is the biological rebuttal. You aren't doing it for her, you're doing it because you realize that your value was being suppressed by a woman who wanted you small so she could feel big. You are being unleashed. You are the victim of potential suppression as long as you let her betrayal keep you in bed. I want to tell you about a man named Ryan. Ryan was an architect who spent 10 years building a dream home for his wife, Elena. When he discovered she was having an affair with a contractor, Ryan didn't try to save the marriage. He didn't ask for closure. Ryan did the total identity liquidation. He sold the house, he sold the furniture, and he took a 1-year contract to work on a massive project in a different country. He went into monk mode. Ryan was the winner in this story because he understood that healing requires a total change of environment and energy. While Elena was expecting Ryan to be the broken ex she could check in on for a confidence boost, Ryan disappeared. He stopped using social media. He stopped talking to their mutual friends. He spent 12 months in the void. When Ryan finally returned to the States, he was a completely different man. He had doubled his net worth, he was in the best shape of his life, and he had a sense of internal peace that couldn't be shaken.
One day, he ran into Elena at a professional event. She tried to approach him with the "I'm so sorry for what happened" speech. Ryan looked at her, smiled politely, and said, "I'm sorry, remind me of your name again." He wasn't being petty. He had healed so thoroughly that she had literally been deleted from the priority list of his brain. He didn't hate her, he didn't love her, he was indifferent. Ryan won because he realized that the ultimate revenge isn't success, it's indifference. He moved from being the victim of her choice to being the master of his own reality. He healed the wound so perfectly, but there wasn't even a scar left for her to touch. You have to recognize the nostalgia trap. This is a psychological trick your brain plays when it's under stress. You start remembering the good times, the holidays, the laughs, the early days. You forget the lies, the coldness, and the disrespect. You are the victim of selective memory. This is why men go back. They are trying to find a woman who no longer exists. You have to be cold. You have to be sharp. When those good memories come, you must immediately remind yourself of the red flags and the final betrayal. You have to train your brain to associate her face with treason, not comfort. If you don't, you are just a man waiting to be poisoned again because you liked the taste of the sugar it was wrapped in. The winner's protocol is about the silent victory. You don't need to tell her you've moved on. You don't need to post about your healing journey. You just live. The win is the day you realize you haven't thought about her in a week. The win is the day you see a photo of her and feel nothing but a mild curiosity about why you ever cared. You are the prize. You are the sovereign man. You recognize that your life is a high-speed train and she decided to jump off. You don't stop the train to see if she's okay. You keep moving toward your destination. Healing is the realization that the train is actually moving faster and smoother now that the extra weight is gone. You are being reforged. You now know that moving on is a physical act, but healing is the absolute reclamation of your masculine spirit. You are no longer the man who begs for a seat at a table where he isn't respected. You are the man who builds his own table. You recognize that her betrayal was the best thing that ever happened to you because it forced you to become the man you were always meant to be. You are the sovereign man. You are the master of your own peace. You don't look back at the fire. You are the one who survived it. So here is the smart question for the Brotherhood today. If you could go back to the day you met her, knowing she would eventually betray you, would you still walk into that trap? Or have you finally healed enough to realize that your love was actually just a lack of self-respect? I want to hear from the men who have reached the stage of indifference. How long did it take for her name to stop meaning anything to you? For the men who are still in the anger stage, be honest. Tell the brothers what you're struggling with. Let's get the engagement up so we can help the man who is currently sitting in his car, staring at his ex's house, and wondering why he can't let go. Your words might be the light he needs to find his way out of the dark.
This channel is for men who are done blaming themselves for other people's choices. If that's you, don't leave as a spectator. Subscribe and stay ahead because we're just getting started. Support the message, speak in the comments, and stand with the men who choose clarity over confusion. I'll see you in the next one. Stay sharp, stay cold, stay in your power.